Okay, so I think I'll slowly get started here. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So, we're still waiting on a few people to join, but we'll slowly get started. So, my name is Deanna Krisick. I'm a senior resiliency consultant here at Premier Continuum, and I will be your host today. So, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So, if you have any questions at any period of during the session, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will have some time allotted for questions at the end of the session, but however, as the topics flow, feel free to use the chat for that. If some of you are unable to join us today, not to worry, both the presentation and recording will be available on our website in the upcoming days. And as I see more of you joining, if ever you do run into any technical issues, please let us know in the chat. Of course, if you're able to do so, my team and I are here to help. So on behalf of Premier Continuum, big thank you for being today for another session of our Insight webinar series. So we're really thrilled to have you with us. Okay, so today's webinar topic is about the, if any of you are joining us for the first time, you'll discover that our Insight sessions are all about sharing knowledge, exchanging ideas, and exploring practical solutions tailored for resiliency professionals just like you. So today's webinar topic is about the 5 layers of resiliency. So we have straightening organizations, leaders, teams, careers, and of course, individuals. So before we begin, just a little bit about us. So these topics are really at the core of what we do here, Premier Continuum. So indeed, we have been helping organizations improve their overall resiliencies and preparedness level for over 25 years. So our mission is simple. It is increasing organizational resilience. So we do that thanks to our 3 complete solutions made by our seasoned experts. So we have, of course, our BCM and resilience management software, award-winning software, Pair Solution. We have our expert consulting services, and we are also certified training partners with the Business Continuity Institute and ICOR. So speaking about certified training, I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today, so Alice Kaltenmark. So Alice is actually one of our certified instructors here at Premier Continuum. She's been with us since 2024. So just to list a few of her great achievements, so she's a global thought leader and brings over 20 plus years of experience in business resilience and over 40 in IT. She holds the Fellow of the Business Continuity Institute certification and was awarded the BCI's prestigious honorary FBCI Global Award in 2020. So congratulations, Alice. She is also the director of the BCI, one of the directors of the BCI Global Board. So we're very excited to have her share her wealth of knowledge and experience with us today. So with that said, we're actually offering 2 courses at the upcoming DRJ in person in sunny Orlando for the first time. So Alice will be teaching the Incident Response and Crisis Management course. So if any of you are attending the DRJ upcoming events in March or are in the Orlando area, we are pleased to offer free participation to Alice's course. So it will take place on Saturday, March 14th. All day, and Sunday, March 15th in the morning, right before the conference. So this is in person. So if you are interested in participating, please email us by end of day today at education@premiercontinuum.com, and we'll send over the information to you. So without further ado, Alice, over to you and our great topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deanna. I really appreciate that introduction and a little bit of background on what's happening today. And hopefully I'll see a lot of you in Orlando as well. Just kind of how did this topic come about, the 5 layers of resilience? When we were preparing for this webinar, I met with Marie-Hélène Sarpicard from Premier Continuum, and we had a conversation. And as we were talking through that conversation, she had done some research and we talked it through. And what came out of that is the presentation I'm delivering to you today. Now, she did all the heavy lifting and pulling all this information together, and I'm happy to share it with you today. I will be interjecting some of my own experience, obviously, in this, and you'll see some of that. Those that know me will see some of that peppered throughout the presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. Of course, anytime you're talking about 5 layers of anything, you need to look at definitions. What are we looking at? Well, the definitions of resilience, there's several schools of thought. I know that's a shocker to all of you, but everybody has their own view. And based on some research, here are 4 commonly understood or recognized perspectives on resilience. In psychology, it refers to the ability to achieve positive outcomes despite significant adversity. In anthropology, the focus is on access to resources, individual, familial, and community-based, and on how these resources are embedded in cultural control contexts. In management, in other words, organizations and risk management, resilience is understood as the capacity to absorb shocks while maintaining organizational functioning and performance. In other words, no matter what happens, you keep on operating. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. One of my favorite little catchphrases in that space. Finally, in territorial and urban governance, resilience is seen as a deeply social and political process shaped by collective choices, power dynamics, and representations. What unites these perspectives is a key idea. And I think you saw this as we were talking through this. Resilience is not something that can be declared. You can't declare that you're resilient. It is something that is built over time within systems and through relationships. And I can't stress that enough. The relationships are key to a successful, resilient fill in the blank. In a world shaped by multiple overlapping crises, resilience is not just about bouncing back. It is the ability to anticipate, absorb shocks, adapt continuously, and continue to deliver value even as conditions rapidly deteriorate or just rapidly change, let alone deteriorate. So it's that being able to absorb it, adapt, and keep going, anticipate, as well as prepare and prevent. So this gets us into that shifting mindset. And this has been evident in a lot of the research that you've seen, a lot of the publications that have likely come across your inbox. In the Continuity and Resilience Report in 2025, it was recognized that there's a growing recognition of resilience as a distinct discipline within organizations. So it's grown beyond business continuity, beyond disaster recovery. It's becoming more encompassing from an organization as a whole, that organizations are now formalizing resilience as a standalone function, reflecting both its strategic importance and its broader scope beyond traditional business continuity. That is becoming more and more prevalent in today's world, and it's vital for success and for being able to continue to thrive in the world that we live in today. So, having this foundation set, we have a shifting mindset, we have definitions. Now let's start diving in and exploring what are these 5 layers of resilience that we've defined. So where they are organizations, leaders, teams, careers, and individuals. When we had the conversation to prepare for this this webinar today, this is what, all the things that we were saying really distilled down to these 5 different layers. So we are going to explore them, each one individually, and then how they relate to each other. So moving on, what enables resilience across these levels? So you've got resilience, but what are your enablers? And it's pretty basic. You have training, certification, experience, and community. Now that's easy to say, but what is this? Like I said, it's understanding these levels is only half the story. The real question becomes what drives resilience in a practical, sustainable way in today's unpredictable world. Drawing on these 5 layers you've just seen, we believe that there are 4 core enablers that strengthen resilience at every level, from strategic planning to daily execution. First is training, because resilience doesn't happen by accident. Targeted business continuity resilience training builds shared knowledge, clarity of roles, and confidence in action. It translates theoretical frameworks into real skills that people can use when it matters most. Second, certification brings rigor and consistency. By aligning teams and organizations with recognized standards like those from the BCI and from ISO 22301, certification ensures resilience practices are credible, measurable, and globally relevant. And that's key, that they're relevant across the globe. Third, experience. Resilience is strengthened through exposure to real challenges, simulations, exercises, and reflection. Experience helps team and leaders move from textbook understanding to situational judgment, adaptability, and improved decision-making. And finally, community. The networks, peer learning, and shared practice that help practitioners learn from others, adapt to change, and elevate resilience across industries. Resilience is not an isolated pursuit. It's amplified when we learn, exchange, and grow together. An example of that is we're here as a community to learn more about what it is that we do and what's happening in this space. So this is just a fine example underscoring that point. These four elements, training, certification, experience, and community, are not just add-ons. They are the practical levers that help your organization and people build real resilience. In the sections ahead, we'll explore how these elements integrate with each of the 5 layers you've seen and how you can apply them in your own business continuity and resilience journey. So organizational resilience, the big one, the big picture, the whole organization. Well, you can't do an organizational resilience conversation without mentioning the 3-legged stool. When we talk about organizational resilience, this image resonates well across the English-speaking world. The stool is inherently stable, but only if all 3 legs are strong. Remove one, weaken one, or assume one can compensate for the others, and the whole thing collapses. That is true. We can take this analogy and paint it in many different pictures, but it is very true when it comes to looking at organizational resilience. It really speaks to all the things that have to work together seamlessly to make sure the organization is resilient. It doesn't belong to a single team, a single framework, or a single discipline. It rests on 3 essential legs. If you go back to that slide, please. Thanks. The first leg is business continuity. This is where we define what truly matters, how we prioritize, and how the organization continues to operate and recover when disruption occurs. The second leg are your IT systems, infrastructure, data, and availability. Without reliable technology, continuity plans stay theoretical and response becomes slow or fragmented. I can attest to that point. And the third leg is, in the examples that we're painting here, the third leg is information security. That's about protection, detection, and containment, ensuring that threats don't compromise the organization's ability to operate in the first place. In your organizations, you might massage what each one of those legs are a little bit, but it's fundamentally business continuity, your core IT, your enterprise, and your security. Those must work well together to drive and realize organization resilience. It doesn't emerge from excellence in just one of these areas. Its strong cybersecurity cannot compensate for the absence of recovery planning. Robust IT can't replace clear continuity decision-making, and continuity plans alone cannot succeed without secure and available systems. So you need all 3 to be mainly to operate. And so this is where our conversation gets going even more. So moving on, standards as living frameworks for organization resilience. We do need the standards and guidelines that help us stay on point and be consistent across various organizations. It also helps lead more credence to what we're doing when we're dealing within your organization. But one thing is true with most standards is they're frequently misunderstood. They're often seen as constraints or compliance exercises, when in fact the best standards are living frameworks. They provide structure and a shared language that while still allowing organizations to adapt. So you've got a framework to operate within. You know it's the right framework. It gives you that structure that you need to adapt to what is appropriate for your organization. The ISO standards such as 22301 offer a strong and internationally recognized foundation for business continuity. But resilience is not built through certification alone. This is where the BCI Good Practice Guidelines play a critical role. They translate real practitioner experience into practical operational guidance. The message is simple. Standards don't create resilience by themselves. People, practices, experience, and informed decision-making do. And strong frameworks like the BCI GPG help bring all of that together in a coherent and actionable way. I could go on about that, but that's not what we're here about today. So moving on, organizational resilience is a set of capabilities, and I know that this will resonate with many on this call. It's not just that you've thought about it, it's what is your actual capability. So we talked about the structures and frameworks. Now let's step back and look at what resilience actually looks like at the capability level. Research by Stephanie Duchek shows that organizational resilience is not a single trait, but a set of interconnected capabilities that unfold over time. We see them before, during, and after disruption: anticipation, preparation, coping, adaptation, and learning. Before disruption, resilience begins with anticipation, detecting weak signals and understanding emerging risks, followed by preparation, which turns that understanding into plans, resources, and training. During disruption, resilience becomes operational, maintaining critical functions, coordinating decisions, and acting under pressure. After disruption, resilience shifts to adaptation, adjusting practices based on what actually happened, not just what was planned. Learning runs across all phases. It is what turns experience into lasting improvement. The key idea is simple. These capabilities don't operate in isolation. They reinforce one another and unfold across multiple layers of the organization. This is exactly what business continuity frameworks and the BCI Good Practice Guidelines reflect in practice. Resilience is not a static state, but a dynamic capability that must be continuously developed and exercised over time. I can't underscore that more, and I know most of you can relate to that. It's not just about what you plan for, it's what are you able to do? What is your capability? And when you're dealing with senior leaders, and we'll be talking about this in the leadership section, it's all about the capability. What have you done for me lately? What are we able to do? I need proof. So, but as you look through this, if you really think back through everything that you've seen in your experience and what you've read, this is a valid model. Anticipate, prepare, cope, absorb, adaptation, and learning. They may happen in different phases, at different orders at times, but they all are interrelated. And the result is, what is that capability? So moving on. Now, the other shift that is happening within our industry is we're moving from cost avoidance to value creation. Just having an insurance policy of a business continuity plan is not enough anymore. Companies don't have the time to just work on plans. There has to be value in this space. So this is the last point on the organizational resilience layer. What is the real business value of business continuity and resilience? And I know that's a question we all work on trying to answer on pretty much every day in our jobs. For a long time, resilience was viewed mainly as cost, necessary to reduce risk, ensure compliance, or manage crises. What the data shows is that the view is changing. And this is an excerpt from the recent Resilience Vision 2030 report from the BCI. Cost avoidance remains an immediate benefit. Fewer disruptions, faster recovery, and better coordination deliver clear financial impact. That's a given. But the real shift goes further. More and more organizations point to improved decision-making as a core value of resilience, driven by better understanding of procedures and interdependencies. This is where resilience becomes strategic. Get to know your organization and how it functions. Resilience is also increasingly recognized as a way to protect and even strengthen reputation, trust, and credibility. And most tellingly, over 70% of organizations now see resilience as a competitive advantage. In other words, resilience is no longer just about survival. It is a capability that enables stronger performance in a world where disruption is expected. The message is clear. Organization resilience is not a support function. It is a foundational capability at the heart of strategy and value creation. And I'm seeing this in the boardroom as well as senior leadership teams on throughout organizations. The more I get out beyond my former employer, this is so true. It's not organization resilience, it's not support. It is foundational to the business and that very heart of the strategy and value creation. So, let's mention senior leadership. Let's start looking at leadership resilience, our next layer. This next slide from the BCI Continuity and Resilience Report 2025 highlights a very important shift in how resilience is being understood at the leadership level. What organizations anticipate as the biggest change over the next 5 years is not more documentation, but the ability to build flexible response capabilities. In other words, resilience is moving away from compliance-driven approaches toward real operational readiness. I think everybody in this virtual room would be shaking their heads, definitely. Compliance has its place, but give me real operational readiness. The data reinforces this shift. Incident agnostic planning risks ranks at the top, showing that leaders are increasingly focused on adaptability rather than scenario-specific playbooks. Adaptability. Can we talk about AI? Major adaptability. But that is where leaders are focused now, being adaptive and being able to withstand and not only anticipate, but withstand the storms whenever they occur. And in many cases, all at the same time. So just as importantly, over 80% of respondents point to senior management attention and cross-team collaboration as critical factors. This clearly positions leadership as an active driver of resilience, not a distant sponsor. Not just somebody that has, just has to make sure it gets done. You guys go off and do it. Just tell me the results. No, the leaders are key to driving it through the organization, leading by example, and making it truly happen within the organization. Becoming part of the organization. Think back to the 6 professional practices of and the GPG. That second one, embracing business continuity into the organization. That embracing is so important, and it begins with leaders. Board level support and post-incident reviews further emphasize that resilience is becoming a governance and learning issue, not just an operational one. Taken together, this tells us something essential. Leadership resilience is less about having all the answers in advance and more about creating the conditions for coordinated, informed, and flexible decision-making when disruption occurs. This is exactly where business continuity and resilience practices meet leadership behavior. So like I tell my students when I'm teaching a certification class, I don't need a nice long document. I need a checklist. I need guidance. Give leaders a checklist of the questions to ask so they can deal with the situation at hand. Not a bunch of how-tos, but just be able to make those decisions. That is where we're driving. You're able to adapt and not only respond, but anticipate. Embrace the change, because it could actually be that thing that takes your company from here, your organization from here to up to here in a heartbeat. So moving on, leadership resilience in practice. And this is a really good graphic, and I'm going to walk through it, and hopefully by the end of it, it all really comes together for you. When we talk about leadership resilience, it's tempting to associate it with a role, a title, or a position on an organizational chart. But in practice, leadership resilience works very differently. It is not centralized. It is distributed. It lives across systems, teams, and individuals, and it shows up most clearly when organizations are under pressure. Let's start with governance and committees. Governance is not about bureaucracy. It is about clarity. Committees matter because they create alignment, visibility, and shared accountability. In a business continuity and resilience context, they ensure that risks are understood across the functions, decisions are coordinated, and priorities are established before a disruption occurs, not in the middle of one. That is critical. You know what your priorities are before you go into it so that you can deal with the situation at hand. However, governance alone is never enough. Resilience becomes real through teamwork and collaboration. Disruptions rarely respect organizational boundaries. And I get an amen on that one. They cut across departments, technologies, and responsibilities. Teams that are used to working together, sharing information openly, escalating issues early, and making decisions collectively are far more capable of responding effectively when time and information are limited. I've seen this in practice, and it's a beautiful thing when people they know what to do. They've worked together, they know who does what, and it works. It's just amazing how it all comes together. But if you don't have that before the stuff happens, it's going to be a train wreck. And I've seen that happen as well. So this is where training and capacity building play a critical role. Training builds much more than technical knowledge. It creates a common language, shared mental models, and confidence in decision making. It helps people understand not only what to do, but how to think when plans no longer perfectly apply. Capacity building turns resilience from a documented requirement into a lived capability. Leadership resilience also depends on succession planning. Disruptions often coincide with moments of transition, changes in roles, responsibilities, or availability of key people. Organizations that plan for leadership continuity, knowledge transfer, and role coverage are far less vulnerable to single points of failure. Succession planning ensures that leadership resilience endures beyond individuals. I've seen this in real practice, and it's so true. And talk about how to stop an organization in its tracks is remove a leader who had not built in a succession plan. They bring in somebody new and you have to restart everything. That loses time. You can't afford to do that anymore. So that succession planning is vital to ongoing success. Closely connected to this is career development. Resilient leaders are not created overnight. They are developed over time through exposure, learning, feedback, and progression. Career development strengthens resilience by building adaptable professionals who can operate across contexts, handle ambiguity, and grow through disruption rather than being derailed by it. All of these elements come together in adaptation to change. True leadership resilience is demonstrated when conditions shift, assumptions break down, and new constraints emerge. Resilient leaders at every level are able to reassess, reprioritize, and adjust course without losing sight of what truly matters. Adaptation is not about reacting faster, it's about responding more intelligently. And this brings us to the core message of this slide. Leadership is not a box on an organizational chart. It is a shared responsibility. It lives in behaviors, decisions, and interactions. It shows up when people take ownership, collaborate across silos, and act with intent in moments of uncertainty. In resilient organizations, leadership is not reserved for a few individuals at the top. It exists in governance structures, in teams, and ultimately in people. This is the kind of leadership that business continuity and resilience aims to develop, not just to withstand disruption, but to navigate it with purpose and confidence. Oh, I like that last statement. Navigate it with purpose and confidence. It's vital. All right, I'm saying it's vital. A lot of these things are just really good, strong points that really resonate with me. All right, now let's move on. We've got to keep moving because we'll never get through everything in this hour. Team resilience. Now, this is where it all comes together, in my mind, is with our teams. This slide from the Resilience Vision 2030 report highlights a simple reality. Despite growing awareness, many organizations still struggle to turn resilience into action. The issue is not strategy. On paper, resilience plans are often strong. The real challenge is execution, especially collaboration. Over 60% of organizations cite siloed working as the main reason resilience efforts fail. I hear that echoing in the hallways of my mind. Disruptions don't respect organizational boundaries. When teams don't work well together, resilience breaks down where coordination matters most. That's why the message is clear. The challenge is less about strategy and more about culture and leadership. And this is why the team level is critical. Teams are where resilience either becomes real or it stays theoretical. So let's talk about team resilience in practice. Now that we've framed why resilience strategies often fail, next slide, please. Thanks. So now we've reframed why resilience strategies often fail. This is where things become very concrete at the team level. Team resilience is not about heroics during a crisis. It's about what teams have already built before disruption occurs. The first element is shared awareness and role clarity. Resilient teams understand how their work connects to others. People know not only their own responsibilities, but also who they depend on and who depends on them. When disruption happens, this shared awareness prevents confusion, duplication of effort, and critical gaps. The second element is active engagement in contingency planning. Say that 10 times fast. Plans created in isolation rarely survive first contact with reality. When teams are actively involved in building contingency plans, those plans become grounded, realistic, and usable. More importantly, people develop ownership. They recognize themselves in the plan. That is amazing when that starts to happen. This leads directly to the third element, practice. Embracing what to do and have practiced doing it. Exercises, simulations, and walkthroughs build what we often call muscle memory. The ability to act decisively under stress without waiting for perfect information. And this is where real-world constraints matter. In many disruptions, technology is degraded, slow, or unavailable. Teams that rely entirely on SaaS tools, automated workflows, or digital platforms often discover too late that they lack alternatives. Talk to any healthcare organization that's been hacked and they don't have access to their electronic records, and they can tell you how true that is. That's why redundancy in communication and decision-making channels is a key component of team resilience. Simple examples make a big difference. Having direct phone numbers instead of platform-based messaging only, knowing how to regroup when collaboration tools fail, and being able to continue coordinating even with limited systems. It's one of my pet peeves when I was putting together incident management teams or recovery teams, and the only phone number available for people was their team's address, their email address. And you could reach them through Teams. I said, what good is that going to do me when, it's on a holiday weekend and everything is down and I don't have access to that and Teams is not available and they can't get to it either. If I don't have a phone number to call, what do I do? Okay, I won't digress too much farther, but I think you all can relate to something like that. So what all of this highlights is a simple truth. Team resilience is not created by policies or frameworks alone. It is created through habits, shared understanding, and repeated practice. When teams are resilient, they become the point where strategy turns into action. They absorb shocks, adapt in real time, and help the organization moving forward, even when conditions are far from ideal. This is why strengthening team resilience is not a nice to have. It is one of the most effective ways to close the gap between resilience, intent, and operational reality. One of my foundational statements when I would put together a new recovery plan in the technical world is use the same tools in recovery that you use in production. Use what people know. They will know what to do. They don't have to remember to do something different when they're responding to an incident. Use the tools that they know what to do. It is built into their just natural flow of how they address problems, how they deal with things. That's so true. That's why teams exercising together in day-to-day actual incidents, as well as major disruptions, they know what to do because that's what they do on a day-by-day basis. It's truly embracing resilience through every fiber of the organization and the very fabric of the organization. It is part of the culture. I'll get off my soapbox and move on. Looks like we might have. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, career resilience. I got sidetracked on my side. Sorry about that. Career resilience. So now we're shifting from, we've been talking about the organization, the leaders, and the teams. Now let's start looking at ourselves, because we are a key piece of this whole process, this whole system, resilience systems that we have put in place. So in the BCI Continuity and Resilience Report last year, it shows a clear shift in the role of the business continuity professional. Today's BC managers are no longer just planners or framework owners. They are expected to combine technical expertise with strong communication, collaboration, and leadership skills, acting as a bridge between technical teams, business units, and senior leadership. We are the glue of the organization to actually keep things running when stuff happens. So looking ahead, the skill set continues to expand. Strategic leadership, risk management, and supply chain resilience are increasingly critical alongside crisis communication, cybersecurity awareness, and data-driven decision-making. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but you need to be aware of what they are, and you need to know who in your organization owns those different facets and build good, close working relationships with them. But the takeaway here for you personally, according to your career, the takeaway is simple. Career resilience in this field depends on continuous learning and the ability to operate across disciplines, not just within traditional business continuity boundaries. You will find in most organizations that business continuity and resilience has many different names, takes many different shapes, reports in all different lines within the organization, because every organization is different. So that is why it's part of why, as you to remain relevant in the career, is you need to be like I said, you don't have to be an expert, but you have to understand what each of these different disciplines are about and how they work together, so that you can help be that facilitator to bring the disciplines together to build that resilient organization. So moving on. Career resilience in practice. What does this look like in practice? When we talk about career resilience, the first thing to understand is that it doesn't happen by chance. It is built deliberately over time through consistent choices and behaviors. A core foundation of career resilience is a continuous learning mindset. In a field like business continuity and resilience, where risks evolve, technologies change, and expectations shift, staying static is not an option. Resilient professionals actively seek to expand their knowledge and adapt their skill sets as the environment changes. Closely connected to this is networking within the continuity and resilience community. Career resilience is strengthened through connection. Engaging with peers, practitioners, and industry experts allows professionals to learn from real experiences, exchange perspectives, and avoid reinventing the wheel. These networks often become critical sources of insight during periods of disruption or career transition. Another key element is keeping skills current and relevant. This means staying informed about emergency practices, AI, standards, and expectations, but also understanding where your skills create the most value. Career resilient professionals regularly assess what they know, what they need to learn next, and how their capabilities align with organizational needs. Technology also plays an increasingly important role. Career resilience today includes the ability to leverage technology where it makes sense, not for the sake of novelty, but to enhance effectiveness. So this includes understanding how digital tools, analytics, and increasingly AI-enabled solutions can support and reimagine resilience programs, improve decision-making, and reduce operational friction. Staying connected to the field is equally important. Webinars, conferences, industry research, and professional publications are not optional extras. They are mechanisms for staying relevant, informed, and future ready. They help professionals anticipate change rather than react to it. I can't say that loudly enough. I have benefited from getting to know many of you on this call through the various community opportunities we have, the webinars, the coffee chats, various other opportunities to network and share ideas and experiences. It's not only about having that support group, but it's also about upskilling yourself. I learned so much through all the things I've done throughout the community. My path through the BCI USA chapter, the various other leadership roles I've had there, and now sitting on the BCI board. All of those experiences helped me fine-tune my leadership skills and make me a better professional in my day job. Now I have left my day job and I'm now doing fun things like this on a regular basis. But I could not have succeeded as well as I did if I had not been able to build those skills. My executive leadership skills were pretty weak at the beginning, but through running through all of this journey that I've been on, I have really honed those skills. And now I'm getting to really enjoy using those skills on the BCI board. So it's about looking at your career and intentionally planning where you want to go and taking advantage of opportunities. Opportunities like this webinar today, and you've got Business Continuity Awareness Week coming up in May, and so many other opportunities. Do it. It makes a difference. It will help you. And finally, career resilience often requires intentional investment in advanced training and education. Whether through advanced BCM courses, crisis management training, or broader business resilience education, these learning paths deepen expertise and expand professional horizons. I know many of you on this call have taken advantage of that and have grown because of it. And not only grown personally, but your network has grown, and therefore you have more resources to draw on a regular basis. The key message of this slide is simple. Career resilience is not something that happens to you. It is something you actively build. Those who invest in learning, connection, and a capability are far better positioned to adapt, grow, and remain relevant in an increasingly uncertain professional landscape. So moving on, let's look at career ownership and capacity building. Career resilience is not only about learning new skills, it's also about taking ownership of your professional trajectory. In a constantly evolving environment, relying solely on an employer or a role description to shape your career is increasingly risky. In fact, that's a recipe for disaster, in my mind. Career ownership starts with actively developing and transferring knowledge. Resilient professionals don't keep expertise to themselves. They train teams, mentor colleagues, and share practices. By doing so, they not only strengthen organizational resilience, but also reinforce their own value and relevance. I just did this when I was preparing to leave my job of 43 years. I was able to train my successor. I took ownership of that and I started that process. I didn't wait for somebody to tell me to do it. I took it upon myself, and it made a difference in the organization. Another important dimension is the willingness to explore different ways of working. Disruption often exposes the limits of familiar processes and habits. Professionals who experiment, challenge assumptions, and it's done are better equipped to operate under uncertainty and complexity. Again, only that, but you remain relevant within your organization. Stay in tune with what's happening. Where are things going? Adapt the way you address things. You know the fundamentals. You know what needs to be done. How you do it can change to map to what the organization can understand and embrace. Career resilience also means being prepared for change, even when it's unexpected. Having a plan B, C, or D, even D is not pessimism. It's professionalism. This includes being ready for role changes, organizational shifts, or new responsibilities, and having the confidence to navigate those transitions. Yeah, they're hard, but if you are intentional about it and you've done your preparation, you're ready to pivot when that time comes. A less visible but equally critical aspect of career ownership is preparing successors. I just touched on that a little bit. Training someone to take over your role may seem counterintuitive, but it is actually a sign of maturity and resilience. It reduces single points of failure, enables continuity, and positions you for growth rather than stagnation. Ultimately, career ownership requires a mindset shift. You are responsible for your career, not your employer. This means actively shaping your professional identity, developing your personal brand, and owning the value you bring to an organization. When professionals take ownership of their careers, capacity building becomes a shared process. Individual growth strengthens teams, teams strengthen organizations, and resilience becomes sustainable rather than dependent on a few key individuals. This is how career resilience moves from intention to long-term capability. So moving on, let's look at what the role that certification recognition and market value have. As we talk about career ownership and capacity building, the next question is often a very pragmatic one. How is this effort recognized? And how does it translate into long-term value? I know what I know what I do within my own organization, but how does that translate outside of my organization if I have the opportunity to look elsewhere for employment? This is where certification plays a critical role in career resilience. Certification is not just about adding letters after your name. It provides external validation of your expertise, aligned with recognized standards and best practices. In a field as complex and evolving as business continuity and resilience, certification signals credibility, consistency, and professional maturity. The data from the BCI Continuity and Resilience Report 2025 clearly shows this impact. Professionals who are certified tend to see higher compensation, and that value increases with the number of certifications obtained. This reflects not only technical knowledge, but also commitment to continuous development. We also see that certain certifications are consistently associated with higher market value. This reinforces an important point. Career resilience is strengthened when skills are both relevant and recognized by the broader professional ecosystem. Beyond compensation, certification supports career mobility and longevity. It makes expertise portable across organizations, sectors, and geographies. In times of disruption, restructuring, or transition, this portability becomes a powerful resilience factor. But certification alone is never enough. Its real value comes when it is combined with experience, learning, and professional judgment. Certifications create a foundation. It's how individuals apply that foundation in real-world contexts that ultimately matters. And this is where career resilience naturally connects to individual resilience. Career resilience is about remaining relevant over time. Individual resilience is about maintaining the capacity to adapt, perform, and recover as a person, cognitively, emotionally, and professionally. When individuals invest in their development, seek recognition for their skills, and understand their value in the market, they build confidence and agency. That confidence directly supports individual resilience, especially under pressure, uncertainty, or change. In other words, resilient careers are built on resilient individuals, and resilient individuals are better equipped to learn, grow, and lead regardless of the disruption they face. So now let's dive into individual resilience. Some of this you're going to say, yep, that makes sense, and others, there might be some new concepts in this section. Individual resilience starts with something very simple, but often overlooked: balance. A healthy balance between work, home, and community is not a luxury. It's a resilience requirement. When one of these areas collapses, the others are inevitably affected. Resilient individuals manage their energy, not just their time. They pay attention to physical and mental health because decision-making, judgment, and adaptability all degrade under sustained fatigue. Another key element is staying current with technology without becoming dependent on it. Technology enables resilience, but over-reliance can also create fragility. Individually resilient people understand the tools they use, their limits, and what happens when their tools fail. Financial resilience also matters. Protecting personal and family finances reduces stress and preserves decision-making capacity during disruption. Financial insecurity amplifies the impact of crises, professionally and personally. Finally, individual resilience is about staying active rather than inactive. It's the habit of looking ahead, laying groundwork early, and avoiding last-minute scrambling. At its core, individual resilience is about sustainability, the ability to perform, adapt, and recover over time, not just in a single crisis. So it comes down to we have to practice what we preach. One of the most powerful, that's the next slide, please. One of the most powerful and often underused resilience principles is this: practice what we preach at home. If business continuity concepts only exist at work, they remain abstract. But when individuals apply them personally, they become real. Simple preparedness habits make a significant difference. Backup power solutions, battery packs, alternative communication methods, and basic emergency kits are not extreme measures. They are practical expressions of resilience. It's like, of anybody, we should be the ones that are prepared in our neighborhoods. The idea of a 72-hour mindset is especially relevant. Knowing that you and your household can operate for a few days without external support creates confidence and reduces cognitive load during broader disruptions. This also reinforces an important lesson. Technology will not always be available. Teams and individuals who rely exclusively on SaaS platforms, cloud services, or automated workflows often struggle when their systems degrade. Having non-digital options matters. When individuals build personal continuity habits, they bring that mindset back into the working place. Prepared people make calmer decisions, communicate more effectively, and support others under pressure. Individual preparedness strengthens collective resilience. And this is one thing, a personal example. I planned ahead before I chose to leave my longtime employer last year. I had been planning ahead for over 3 years. I had put a lot of things in place so that when the time came and I transitioned from being full-time employed to being self-employed, it wasn't, there were some difficulties, but they were very achievable because I had been prepared. You need to be prepared no matter what. In our world, nothing is guaranteed. No matter who you work for, where you're at, what you're doing, nothing is guaranteed. So we as resilient individuals need to be prepared. We may not have all the answers, but we at least have a game plan. You start looking ahead and putting things in place so that when the time comes, because it will come, you just don't know how, you're able to act and you'll be more calm because you've already thought through it. It's fundamentals, again, practicing what we preach. So looking ahead, on the next slide, individual resilience is not a one-time effort. It's a long-term practice. Resilient individuals don't wait for disruption to force change. They anticipate, adapt, and invest early in skills, health, preparedness, and perspective. They understand that resilience is cumulative. Small, consistent actions taken over time matter far more than dramatic responses during crises. This mindset creates confidence and agency. When individuals feel prepared, they are more willing to take responsibility, support others, and lead, regardless of formal authority. Yeah, the org chart goes out the window in times of crises. When you know what to do, you can step up and be that leader. And this brings us full circle. Organizations, leaders, teams, and careers can only be resilient if the individuals within them are prepared, supported, and sustainable. People, and it's built long before it is tested. I'm going to take a breath. So this is the 5 layers we walked through at the organization level: leaders, teams, careers, and individuals. I think we're at the time that we can entertain questions. We've got 5 minutes left. Yeah, what have we got? Yes, also in the deck there are the references, many of the references that we pulled from a lot of the research, so do take advantage of those. And what's the next slide?
Questions.
There we go. So I was right.
We're there. So I'm looking at the chat. We don't have anything right now. So if there's anyone, feel free to either speak up or if you have any questions in the chat. If there's nothing right now, so thank you so much, Alice, for all this amazing information. I think it was great, really from all perspectives, from a senior leadership role to someone who's just starting out in continuity. I think it's just fantastic to see and all the different transitions in between. So a lot of great insight and great information to think about. So if ever you have any questions that you can't think of right now, we'll put in the email in the chat as well, so you can send in your questions afterwards at info@premiercontinuum.com. Oh, I do have one here from Adam. So he says, great session. Does anyone have any suggestions for journals, professional development readings that they really like? So if there's anything that anyone wants to share.
I know I go to the BCI website a lot because of all the articles that are published there, as well as the research reports that are published through the BCI. So that is a great place to get information. Also, you have drj.com is a great resource. I'm not sure if Continuity Central is still active, but I've used that in the past. Resilience Hub is another resource to go to. I think it depends on where you're at, but I would, folks, if you've got some other suggestions that are on the call, go ahead and put it in the chat, because that's a great question. I know when I first came into this profession, that was one of my things that I had to find. Where do I get information? And I found a lot of great resources just by asking around and then following through on that. Yeah, DRI International is also an option.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Well, thank you.
Good. Thank you, everyone. So once again, just a quick reminder about if ever you're in the Orlando area or attending the DRJ Spring, we are offering free participation to Alice's course for incident response and crisis management. So if you are interested in participating, please email us at education@premiercontinuum.com. and we will send over the information. We also have various courses that we give through our instructors. So on stakeholder engagement, designing and delivering exercises, and we have a new course on crisis communications as well. So if ever you're interested in that. And once again, thank you, Alice, for your great insight and sharing your experiences. It was, I think, very, very helpful, and we appreciate your time, and everyone else as well. Thank you so much. And if ever you need anything, feel free to contact us at any time. We'll be available to you. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.